Have you ever felt the cold steel of a knife in your back? Not a physical knife, but the sharp, stinging pain of betrayal by someone you called a friend? That is exactly how Sarah felt on the worst day of her life. She was packing her box, not because she wanted to leave, but because the man she trusted, the man she stayed up late helping, had just stolen her future. But Sarah didn't know that this moment of defeat was actually the planting of a seed that would grow into a massive tree of revenge and success 5 years later. Please, before we unravel this story of grit and glory, hit that like button. It helps us expose the snakes in suits and celebrate the real heroes. And if you believe in karma, smash that subscribe button right now. You don't want to miss how this turns out. Let me take you back to where it all started. Sarah was a junior architect at a prestigious firm called Skyline Designs. She was the quiet type, the one who came in early and left late. She was brilliant, but she was shy. Then there was Jason. Jason was everything Sarah was not. He was loud, charming, and knew exactly how to talk to the bosses. He wore expensive cologne and flashed a smile that could sell ice to an Eskimo. They were friends, or so Sarah thought. They were both aiming for the same promotion, senior partner. The firm had announced a competition. Whoever designed the winning concept for the new city Green Tech Hub would get the promotion and a massive bonus. Sarah poured her soul into this project. She called it the Living Tower. It was a revolutionary design that used vertical gardens to clean the city air. She spent nights sketching, calculating, and dreaming. One Friday night, the office was empty except for Sarah and Jason. "Wow, Sarah," Jason said, leaning over her desk, looking at her blueprints. This is genius. You're going to win for sure." Sarah smiled, tired but happy. "You think so, Jason? I'm still worried about the structural integrity of the West Wing." "It's perfect," Jason said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Hey, you look exhausted. Why don't you go home? I'm staying late to finish my paperwork. Leave the files here. I'll lock them up in the safe for you. You can trust me." Sarah, with her heart full of trust, handed him the physical portfolio and the USB drive with all her digital files. "Thank you, Jason. You're a lifesaver." She went home and slept for the first time in weeks. She didn't know that while she was sleeping, Jason was wide awake. He wasn't locking up her files. He was copying them. He was changing the name on the title page from Sarah Jenkins to Jason Miller. He was memorizing her notes, practicing her speech, and stealing her soul. The next morning, the presentation began. Sarah walked in, refreshed and ready. But when she looked at the screen, her blood turned to ice. There, projected on the wall, was her design. The Living Tower. But standing in front of it was Jason. "And as you can see, gentlemen," Jason said confidently, using the laser pointer, "I designed the West Wing to maximize sunlight." Sarah stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Wait, that's my design. That's my work." The room went silent. The CEO, Mr. Sterling, frowned and looked at Sarah over his glasses. "Miss Jenkins, please sit down. Interrupting a presentation is highly unprofessional." "But Mr. Sterling, he stole it. I gave him my files last night to lock up." Sarah's voice trembled. She looked at Jason, pleading with her eyes for him to tell the truth. Jason looked at her with a face full of fake confusion. "Sarah? What are you talking about? You've been struggling with your concept for weeks. I showed you this draft yesterday to help you get inspired. Are you okay? You seem unstable." "Unstable?" Sarah gasped. "Jason, look at me. Tell them the truth." Mr. Sterling slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. Jason, continue." "Sarah, we will discuss this later." Jason finished the presentation. He used Sarah's words. He used Sarah's passion. And he got a standing ovation. 10 minutes later, Sarah was called into Mr. Sterling's office. She thought she would get a chance to prove herself. Instead, she was handed a letter. "We cannot have liars and hysterical people in this firm," Sterling said coldly. "Jason is a top talent. Accusing him of theft because you are jealous? It's pathetic. Pack your things, Sarah. You're fired." Sarah looked through the glass wall. Jason was outside, surrounded by colleagues, shaking his hand. He looked at her, and for a split second, the mask slipped. He winked. A cold, heartless wink. Sarah walked out into the rain. She had no job. No reference. And her masterpiece was gone. She went home and cried for 3 days straight. She felt stupid. She felt used. Have you ever been there? When you replay the moment over and over, wishing you had done something differently? Tell me in the comments if you've ever had an idea stolen. It's a pain that burns. But here is the thing about fire. It burns, yes, but it also forges steel. On the 4th day, Sarah stopped crying. She looked in the mirror. Her eyes were puffy, but the fire was back. "He took my drawing," she whispered to her reflection. "But he didn't take my brain. He didn't take my talent." She couldn't get a job at another big firm. Jason had spread rumors that she was crazy. So, she started from zero. Actually, she started from below zero. She started in her grandmother's dusty garage. She didn't try to build another skyscraper. She didn't have the money. Instead, she started small. She designed eco-friendly tiny homes. She called her new company Phoenix Architecture because she was rising from the ashes. For the first year, she barely ate. She worked 18 hours a day. She answered her own phones, cleaned her own floors, and did her own marketing. Meanwhile, she saw Jason on the cover of magazines. The golden boy of architecture, they called him. The creator of the Living Tower. It made her sick, but it also made her work harder. Slowly, things began to change. Her tiny homes went viral. People loved her attention to detail, the kind of detail Jason never had. Then she got a contract for a school. Then a library. Then a sustainable shopping complex. 5 years passed. 5 years of sweat, tears, and no sleep. Sarah wasn't just a designer anymore, she was a mogul. She had bought her own building. She had 50 employees who loved her because she never took credit for their work. One morning, Sarah was sitting in her glass-walled office, drinking a kale smoothie, when her assistant, Mike, walked in. "Boss, have you seen the news?" Mike asked, putting a tablet on her desk. Sarah looked down. The headline read, "Skyline Designs Stock Crashes After Living Tower Maintenance Issues." Sarah raised an eyebrow. Maintenance issues? Apparently, Mike said, the west wing of the tower, the one Jason Miller designed, has major leaking problems. The ventilation system doesn't work. The tenants are suing. Skyline is going bankrupt, Sarah. They are looking for a buyer. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. She remembered that night 5 years ago. She remembered telling Jason she was worried about the structural integrity of the west wing. She had the solution in her head, but she hadn't written it down before he stole the files. He stole the design, but he didn't understand the science behind it. "Get the car ready, Mike," Sarah said softly. "I think it's time to go shopping." The scene at Skyline Designs was grim. Mr. Sterling, the CEO who had fired Sarah, looked 10 years older. He was sitting at the head of the long table, head in his hands. Jason was there too, pacing back and forth. "I told you it was the contractor's fault." Jason shouted. "My design was perfect." "Your design was flawed, Jason." Sterling yelled back. "And now we are ruined. The investors are pulling out. Unless this mystery buyer saves us today, we are all out on the street." "Who is this buyer anyway?" Jason asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Phoenix Architecture? Who are they?" "Probably some small-time firm we can manipulate." Just then, the double doors swung open. The sound of high heels echoed on the marble floor. A woman walked in. She was wearing a tailored white power suit that cost more than Jason's car. She had sunglasses on. Behind her walked 3 lawyers in dark suits. Jason stopped pacing. Mr. Sterling looked up. The woman reached the end of the table. She slowly removed her sunglasses. Jason's face went pale. Ghost pale. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Hello, Jason," Sarah said, her voice smooth as silk but cold as ice. "Hello, Mr. Sterling." "Sarah?" Mr. Sterling whispered, standing up shakily. "Sarah Jenkins?" "It's Sarah Phoenix now," she corrected him. "And I'm the one buying your company." The silence in the room was heavy. You could hear a pin drop. Sarah gestured for her lawyers to sit, then she took the seat at the head of the table, Mr. Sterling's seat. Sterling awkwardly moved to the side. "So," Sarah said, opening a folder. "I've reviewed the books. It's a mess. The Living Tower is a disaster. It seems the lead architect didn't account for the humidity variance in the West Wing." She looked directly at Jason. "Beginner mistake." Jason laughed nervously, a high-pitched, terrified sound. "Sarah. Look at you. I always knew you'd make it big. Listen about the past. We were young, right? Water under the bridge. I'm sure we can work together again. With my charisma and your hard work, we can turn this around." He took a step toward her, extending his hand. Sarah didn't move. She just stared at his hand until he awkwardly pulled it back. "Sit down, Jason," she commanded. He sat like an obedient schoolboy. "I am acquiring Skyline Designs for its assets and its client list," Sarah announced to the room. "But there will be restructuring. Major restructuring." She pulled out a single sheet of paper. "I have a list of employees I am keeping. The ones who actually do the work. The ones who stay late. The ones who don't steal." Jason was sweating profusely now. "Sarah, come on. I'm the face of this company." "Not anymore," Sarah said. She slid the paper across the table to Jason. "That is your termination letter. Effective immediately. You can't do this." Jason screamed, slamming his fist on the table. "I built this place. That tower is mine." "Is it?" Sarah asked calmly. "Then why couldn't you fix it? Why did it fail the moment you had to actually be an architect instead of a thief?" She stood up and leaned over the table. "You stole my idea, Jason. But you couldn't steal my vision. You took the fruit, but you didn't know how to grow the tree. And now, the tree has fallen on you." She turned to security. "Please escort Mr. Miller out of the building. And check his bag. Make sure he doesn't steal any staplers on his way out." Jason was dragged out, shouting and cursing. The entire office staff, the interns, the receptionists, the junior designers, watched him go. And you know what? They didn't look sad. They looked relieved. They knew who did the real work. Mr. Sterling looked at Sarah, trembling. And me? Sarah? I didn't know he stole it. I swear." Sarah looked at the old man. She could have fired him too. He had insulted her. He had fired her. But Sarah wasn't like them. She didn't want revenge on everyone. She wanted justice. "You let yourself be blinded by a shiny suit and a smooth talker, Mr. Sterling," Sarah said. "I'm keeping you on as a consultant for 6 months to help with the transition. But you don't make decisions anymore. I do. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear," Sterling said, head bowed. Sarah walked to the window of her new office, Jason's old office. She looked out at the city. In the distance, she could see the Living Tower. It was covered in scaffolding, being repaired by her team. She took a deep breath. She didn't feel the rush of angry revenge she thought she would. She felt peace. She realized that if Jason hadn't stolen her idea, she might have stayed a junior architect forever, hiding in the shadows. His betrayal forced her to become a boss. She pulled out her phone and called her grandma. "Hey, Gran. Yeah, I got the building. No, I didn't yell. I cleaned house." My friends, Sarah didn't just become rich. She became the boss she never had. She created a workspace where interns were credited for their ideas, where hard work was noticed, where Jasons were shown the door before they could hurt anyone. And as for Jason? The last I heard, he was trying to sell used cars in a different city. And rumors say, he's not very good at it. So what is the lesson here? It's simple. People can steal your ideas, they can steal your credit, and they can steal your opportunities. But they cannot steal your source. They cannot steal the creativity that lives inside you. Let them take the egg. You are the goose that lays them. Don't let betrayal turn you bitter. Let it turn you better. Let it be the fuel that pushes you to build your own empire. If you've ever had to start over, type "I will rise" in the comments below. Let's encourage each other. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed Sarah's victory, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe for more stories of justice and triumph. Until next time, keep building and watch out for the snakes. Stay blessed.